Yossi, and
Sure.
welcome.
Meru, thank you for arranging the whole thing.
You're welcome. Thank you for accepting us. This is really exciting for everybody.
No, it's always a pleasure.
So Yossi, we have the fellows in the Zoom, and I hope hundreds of other people in the YouTube listening to you. So first of all, thank you very much. Thank you very much accepting our invitation.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. And again, Shabbat Shalom. One of my best friends is Jewish. He told me I should definitely tell you Shabbat Shalom because it's Friday. So I start with that. So
you know the meaning of this blessing is peaceful Saturday.
Yes. This is one of the very few things I know about.
Shalom is like salam, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So, Yossi, you don't need any introduction, but I made some notes how to introduce you, and there are so many titles you deserve, but my favorite title is the Godfather of Israeli Tech. So let me start with that. I think this explains everything, but how do you get a title like this, Godfather of Israeli Tech? Do you set from time to time, do you cut horse heads and send it to your startups as a message?
No, I am not using this title, and like in every country, there are a number of fathers to the phenomena. It so happens that my first startup was one of the very early startups in Israel, did simply by biology, because I was born in 1942. So by 1969, I was able to create my first startup. So this, I guess, is one of the reasons why I got this title. And also, I don't know how many of you still remember a product which is called ICQ. Anybody remember ICQ? Raise your hand.
I believe many people remember it or know it.
Yeah, you are too young to remember it. So I funded this phenomena. When I funded it, I didn't realize how it will change the internet. You know, this product was the first ever instant messenger. You know, it preceded the Zoom and WhatsApp and Skype and Telegram, and it really created worldwide phenomena. So I guess this, and the press was totally excited by this. The press and everybody was excited. Today, everybody take it for granted. By the way, I was invited by Google Turkey, like in 2010 or something like this, to speak in an event they have done for the developers in Turkey. And 3 people came to me after the talk. There were like 600 people in the audience. 3 people came to me after the talk to tell me that they found their wives over ICQ, which was a nice thing to attend. So I guess this, and then I after we sold ICQ to America Online, I used some of the proceeds to invest in the very early generation of internet companies in Israel. So I invested in some over 80 companies. So I guess the totality of all these elements gave me this undue title.
It sounds great. Godfather of Israel tech startup is really like a knight at the medieval times. So I love it.
By the way, I must make one comment that I think that without instant messaging and the derivatives of instant messaging, to pass through this Corona crisis would have been much more difficult in many ways.
That I believe. I would say without internet and messaging and video calls, it would be a very lonely world, at least in the last.
How the situation in Turkey? Are you still in isolation or?
Well, it's getting back to normal, whatever the new normal will be. But I believe in 2-3 weeks we will start step by step in getting to the new normality, which is expecting us, and hope that we will not have a second wave. We used to have pretty strict rules on that younger people and elder people couldn't go out for anything. It was forbidden by a law. And at the weekend, this was valid for everybody. So the weekends, everybody stayed home. So I believe after Bayram, this will become better and better. So I'm planning to open up my offices in the last week of May. How is the situation in Israel?
In Israel, they lift the ban, they lift the closure this week. Still, social distancing is employed. But other than that, you can go out, provided you wear masks. Schools are still closed. Industry is open. Commerce is open. Restaurants are only takeout. So there is a relaxation, but still a measure of being careful.
How did Tel Aviv experience the last weeks? So what did startups in Tel Aviv do during the lockdown, quarantine, and all the other measures?
I think it's similar in all around the world. The startups are functioning. Most of the people are working from home, which in the case of startup, it's easier. And what we see business-wise, that traffic is increasing because people are at home, but revenue is lower than last year because the companies, the advertisers are trying to save money. Everybody's trying to minimize expenses because of the high level of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. To be very frank with you, I am not worried about the startups. I am worried about the weak elements of society, which, like always, are suffering the most and get the least attention. So this is very bad, I think.
Do you have any startups you invested in having serious difficulties, running out of money, or the business model is not working?
No, not yet. Not yet, but I kind of consolidated most of my portfolio. My 3 main startups, I still invested in maybe 10 or 15 startups. The 3 main ones are surviving very, very good. But, and we still see exits. Just this week, Intel acquired an Israeli startup for the meager amount of $1 billion, $1.1 billion. This is a startup called MoveIt, mm-hmm. which provide you a guide or the schedule of public transportation if you want to go from one place to another by car or train, or not car, but by bus or train, any public transportation. It will give you the routes and the timetables. And they bought it. They want to combine it into Mobileye and use the database for scheduling autonomous taxis. So the world is continuing to roll, but But some industries, we know it, will have difficulty. You don't need to be a genius to understand that the air traffic, the airlines, the hospitality, the tourism, the restaurant, the conferences, the hotel business are going to suffer until there will be a higher level of confidence. Tell me, Sina, on the background, you have this wonderful gala evening, picture of the gala evening.
Yes, you see all the fellows, and I hope the majority of them are listening, but this is from the last gala. This year.
It was as elegant as the one I attended 3 years ago.
Yes, we try to be on a very elegant style, and
it
with
was amazing.
young people, it works very well. So I can hide my body among all the sharp, good-looking young fellows.
I must tell you, in my many years, I traveled and attended many international event, but including in Hollywood, etc. I'm telling you, what you guys are producing is really amazing.
Thank you very much. But
really amazing.
It's easy when you have such a good crowd of people, and the fellows, they dress all up. So then it's easier for all of us, and all the guests are getting more eager to dress up. So every year we are becoming a little bit better.
So what the young people who are participating in this Zoom meeting are doing on their daily life?
Well, I would say some of them, we muted them, by the way. So they will ask later on some questions to you, via me, but part of them are students, part of them are started their career after graduating, and some of them started their startup. So it's the young dynamic crowd, from every visit to Tel Aviv. We usually do. Look, I talked to some venture capitalists in the last weeks, and we are in a phase, everybody is asking everybody about the startups in the portfolio. How is your situation? The keyword is runway, and everybody is expert in runway. And I talked to two of the bigger, or the two biggest German funds, and they both told me, independently from each other, that 95% of all their startups are doing good. So, and they really have some investments in continental Europe. So I believe the entire crisis is the startups managing the crisis much better than traditional industries, like the ones you have mentioned, like the airlines and hospitality, restaurants and stuff like this. Now coming to my question, I'm also seeing some new startups which came up in the last 12 weeks in the Corona crisis. Like my favorite are ghost kitchens, restaurants which have no place for seating. They just do some dishes, and it's just for takeaway, or they deliver to your home. Do you have any startups started in the crisis in Tel Aviv, or any ideas you have heard of?
Not me personally, but we see all kinds of initiatives in the areas which all of a sudden you have surge of demand, like delivery. Everybody is now trying to move to the delivery business, and some social entrepreneurs, they became very active in Israel. There is a big adhesion of the people. They are immediately come to help the other people. On the other hand, you see some industries which are going to be changed totally. Not only that they have a downturn, but for instance, the whole area of shared facilities is going to be changed. And of course, you see a lot of initiative in health. All the big research institutes in Israel are dealing with drug development, accelerating drug development, etc. Everybody's trying to find a solution to find vaccination, testing, analytics, etc. So this is another area where you see a lot of new activities. But I think basically the health of the industry will be determined by the health of the advertising industry. Right now, Google and Facebook are indicating, and this is elementary reduction in their revenues from advertising, for instance. So I think what we are going to see some short-term results and some long-term restructuring.
I will take some questions from our audience. So we have some people in Zoom, they are the fellows, and we have lots of people on YouTube, and I started to get some questions. So in this situation, Yossi, what do you suggest to young entrepreneurs?
What I suggest to young entrepreneurs, number one, to be very careful about spending money. This is probably the most important thing. You know, in such times, you have to be very careful because it's very hard. You remember what Mark Twain said? He said, forecasting is very difficult, especially as it relates to the future. So since it's not totally clear what will be the opportunities and what will be the threats, the startups which raise the money have to be very careful in spending it. This is number one. If you have a chance to raise more money, you should do it. Then there is the issue of employees. Employees are the startup number one asset. The most important, the one major thing which discriminate between successful startups and failing startups is the quality of the employees. So trying to preserve the good employees is very important. So on the one hand, you don't want to spend money, but on the other hand, your asset is the collection of employees you have. So you have to try and keep your employees. If you are short of money, maybe you want to give them more options or to do something to keep the good employees. Also, it's an opportunity if you have people which are not contributing to the startups, you should consider what to do with them. Though I'm telling you to dismiss people in this situation is not so fair and not so nice, because it will be difficult for them to find jobs. And at the end of the day, all of us have responsibility to each other. You know, the life is a wheel. Sometimes you are on the top of the wheel, sometimes you are at the bottom of the wheel. So you have to balance between these three things. The other thing which I can tell you, you have to be very sensitive to the changes in the market, because things are changing. Things are changing, and you have to follow how it affects your business very carefully, and to react both to the opportunities and to and to the threat. I think the best example is what happened to Zoom. Their users went from 10 million to 200 million in like less than 2 months, which is a great opportunity. On the other hand, they face a whole new security issues that they are trying to meet very quickly. So here you have really a very clear example to how the opportunities and the threats can come together. And unfortunately, internet audience is not very loyal. If these 200 people which came to Zoom left some other products, or many of them left some other products. So you have to be on your toes all the time to see what the opportunities and what are the threats to your specific industry, to your specific segment, and to your specific product. You should get the brightest people in your little organization, meet every Thursday morning for 2 hours and make assessment what are the opportunities which have been presented themselves and what are the threats and how you should react. All of it is very good advices, but it's very easy to give advice. To translate it to daily life, you have to be clever, you have to be resilient, you have to be stubborn. And if you are able to do it, then you can ride on the wave. You know, what we see today is a big wave, a huge wave, a tsunami, and you want to be with your little surfboard on the top of this wave, and it takes a lot of skills and a lot of attention, but it's important to do it.
Great. I especially like that life is a wheel. And in the startup scene, I think the wheel is always very quick and fast in changing. So Yossi, let me jump to another topic. So you are the chairman of DLD, and you do the famous KinderNet, which we will do hopefully in the second half of the year, the first time in Turkey, by the way. But how these wonderful conferences and get-togethers will be affected by the coronavirus? Are you expecting any DLD or KinderNet?
They were affected. The whole conference industry was affected in the same way. There are no conferences anymore. The whole industry is on hold. Even the top conferences like Mobile World Congress and other are on hold, and they will be on hold, I think, until people will get more secure in area, not only in traveling, but also in getting 500 people to a room for 3 days and staying together. We know it's very contagious. You know, the main place where people get sick is in assemblies of large groups. It can be a wedding, it can be a football game, etc. So my guess is that no conferences until we reach a level of certainty. And this will take time because first of all, you have to see the travel industry getting back to normal. And in order to see the travel industry, you have to see the airlines beginning to fly. And then you have to see that governments are willing to admit foreigners to come again to their countries. I don't know how things in Turkey, but in many countries, they don't admit foreigners to go. So my guess that I will be surprised if we will have KinderNet Turkey in 2020, maybe in the very end of 2020. In the meantime, everybody is trying to do online meetings. I invite all of you to go to DLD Sync.
Yeah, I
had a wonderful talk 2 days ago of Scott Galloway.
Mm-hmm.
And we have next week a fireside chat of Sir Martin Sorrell, who created WPP and used to run it, and myself on the 14th. And I invite all of you to go to the site and to register. You can just go and register. It's free for everybody. But this is a different experience. It doesn't replace, you cannot take a conference where people are meeting each other and move them online. Online technology is always offering a different kind of experience than offline. Very much like I mentioned, instant messaging. Instant messaging is a different experience than telephone calls or face-to-face meeting. So now what we see, we begin to see paradigms being developed how to make online events. But at the end of the day, I think there is a lot of room to online meetings, and you see talks on YouTube or on TED, which get 2, 3, 4 million people, which you never able to reach it in a conference. But face-to-face conference provide a certain level of human touch, human interaction. You look to somebody in the eyes without mitigation of computer, etc. So I think we will be left after the corona with new ways to make online events, but people will still seek the unmitigated ability to meet other things. One has to understand that conference is not only about content. When you have this badge with your name, your badge in the conference with your name on it, Sina Afra, and Sina goes in the conference with his name, this badge is not a badge, it's a social contract which tell everybody in the room that Sina Afra is open to be approached by anybody who doesn't know him and is willing that people will talk to him. Usually, if you go in the street and somebody you don't know approach you and begin to talk to you, you will be taken away, because it's outside of the convention. So that this convention of everybody mind his own business change when you go to a conference, because in a conference you go with the badge, with your name, and the name say, if you want to talk to me and I'm not talking to anybody else, you can approach me. Mm-hmm. But I think it will take maybe a year until we will see this industry coming back. And then, of course, there is the question of the second wave. If there will be a second wave, it will reduce the confidence, it postponed it with another half a year. I must say, however, Sina, that I think that the world will not stop moving if we don't do conferences for a year or so. It's, excuse me, my wife who is standing here.
Hi.
Need my attention. So excuse me for half a minute now. Okay, I'm back to business. This was a short one.
Yossi, so I think a second wave could be really very radical for all of us, because now we have hope that we are coming to an end, and the second wave would really disappoint, and then we would see more companies and more industries than the mentioned ones to get into trouble, for sure. So let's hope that we don't get a second wave and everybody is keeping up the social distancing and people find the vaccines very fast. So I believe the vaccines will help us to get over it.
If we find the vaccine, and also if we find a drug which can heal you. If there is if a drug will be found, like, you know, penicillin was found for germs, you know, not for viruses, but for bacteria. But Sina, I want to suggest one very important advice to the time of Corona. Can I?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, I would like to tell you my following advice, which is the best, how you can best win from Corona.
I think this is exactly the moment everybody is listening now.
Okay, so I will tell you the best way you can personally win from Corona is to look around and to see who of your friends, who of your neighbors, who of your people in the city need some support and need some help. And go and see how you can help these people. This is the time where people and companies and your friends and small startups need help. And if you help them today, you know, I tell it to you from my long experience, they will not forget it. They will not forget it for years. The best investment you can do is to go and help people without any motive. And people need help, and those who can help should help. And also it will give you a very good feeling that you are doing the right thing. You know, I don't want to go to all the theories of happiness, etc., but it is known that helping other people is the number one way to get yourself happy. So while you are very busy and you have your own issues, look around and see if you can help somebody, if some startup has problems that you can help, if some people are looking for a job that you have the ability to employ them. If you can help somebody, go and do it. In times of Corona, this kind of time are really when we define ourselves as just individuals, or if we are really a community. So I know that this may sound as a strange advice, but believe me, from all the advices I can give you about raising funds and how to make business pitches and etc., this is the best advice I can give a group of young and accomplished and motivated people like yourself. Excuse me for sounding a little bit corny, but really this is the time when your friends may need help.
Yossi, I can't agree more with what you have said. It's, you know, time of empathy, and we are all going through a collective trauma. So in these times, to reach out your hand, I think it's really the best you can do. And this is much more important, becoming a community again, and remembering what is important is much more important to do profits or to have a successful company or not. So thank you very much for that advice. So I'm receiving some questions. The first question is, could you tell us a little bit about the ones which had the greatest impact in your life, like a book, a person, things like that? Is there anything like that? A book you would say this changed my life, or a person except your mother, who is very famous in Turkey, and of course your wife? Anybody who touched your life and it changed it? Is there something?
Yeah, you know, when I was young, I had the opportunity to work for 3 people. Oddly enough, all of them were in the public sector, not in the private sector. I spent a number of years in the public sector in Israel, being in charge of energy and natural resources, where I was quite young, and I worked for 3 great people that I learned from them. I learned from them a lot, and they were kind of role models for me. Mm-hmm. Strangely enough, all of them were great entrepreneurs. None of them was a businessman. You know, their motivation. Now I'm talking about the late 60s and the early 70s, which goes back like 40, 50 years. Mm-hmm. 50 years ago. Wow. 50, that's a lot of time. All of them were not motivated by business motives, but by the mission they were doing. One of them was a head of a technology unit, world expert on communication. The other one was the Minister of Finance of the country. The other one was Minister of Agriculture. And all of them were very talented. I think 2 of them didn't have any formal education other than maybe high school. One of them was a very, very high-level scholar. He was the head of the Israel Academy for Science. Mm-hmm. But what I learned from them is that passion is the number one motivator. Passion is number one motivator. If you want to succeed in your business and you hire people, first of all, check their passion. Because people will do things by their passion much far than being motivated by financial reward or anything else. So this is a short answer to a very interesting question that you asked me.
I have another one. I'm getting some questions of how do you define success for a startup company? Is it the exit? Is it the growth? Is it something else?
I'll tell you, I invested in a company which was called Gift Project, that after 14 months after the establishment of the company, we sold it to a company, American company. You may have heard of Sina. I don't know if your friends heard of it, but called eBay. You heard about eBay?
Yeah, I heard about eBay.
You heard about? How did you hear about eBay?
I worked for a long time for eBay.
You were one of their early employees in Europe, I think. No?
Yeah. I think so. It's over 15 years. A long time ago.
Yeah. Okay. Nevertheless. And we sold the company. We sold the company for a nice price, but it was not a world-class exit. But everybody who was involved, the investors, the founders, the buyers, the employees, the customer, we had 100% satisfaction. Everybody was happy with the deal. So I regard it as a successful deal. Of course, in my history, we have this phenomena of ICQ that we mentioned, which is still regarded as the example of a big success, because after 19 months, we sold the company for a very nice exit to America Online. We had millions of users. For 7 years, we were the #1 download product on download.com, and it was a big success in any term. But I don't mention it because this doesn't belong to business. It belongs more to the miracle domain. I don't think that it can be replicated. But at the end of the day, if you can make a product which will give financial reward to the investors and the founders and the employees, and will create a nice product, and hopefully will serve also some social benefit, then it's success. By the way, the founders of Gift, once they sold the company, they became members of an NGO which is helping schools from weak social economic population.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So, you know, for me, is success for a startup, it's very mission-based, not that much exit-based. Exit is some part of the game. And I also contribute very much, or I appreciate a lot that people are giving back. So this is also, if I evaluate an entrepreneur on success, it's not only the business success, but only the way they give back in what way ever to their community and to their people. This is really something important, and it becomes more and more important to me.
Because you are getting older, Sina, I hate to tell you to put a mirror in front of you.
Thank you for this motivational.
Take it from me, the older you get, the more you have more time to think about all these unimportant issues like what is the meaning of life, why God put us on earth, what should we do with our life, what kind of legacy we would like to live. But when you are 32 years old, the questions you are asking yourself, you know, is how to raise the funds in order to pay my employees whom I need, etc. So this is why you are becoming more engaged. But on the other hand, you know, I see many young people who are, you know, trying to put some meaning to what they are doing.
That's true, but I have to say to my protection that I'm getting older, as long as I don't look into my passport or into a mirror, I feel like 27. Do you have an explanation for that? So
I have a question. Tell me how this wonderful city of Istanbul look like without the millions of people and the gazillions of cars which are moving all over the place, or it's still you have all this chaotic movement in the city?
No. I think the most remarkable story in the last weeks I have been witnessing was that we have dolphins back in the Bosporus. And I remember dolphins from my childhood to have seen them in that, you know, amount of dolphins. But now they are at, you know Ortaköy. This is the famous mosque in the Bosporus. Yeah. I'm sure you have been there in one of the clubs when you have visited somebody here. But the dolphins are going into the place of Ortaköy and then swimming there because there's nobody disturbing them, no noise, and everything seems very friendly for them. And
no ships in the Bosphorus?
No ships in the Bosphorus. So maybe there is a few per day, but not comparable to what Bosphorus is experiencing usually throughout the day with all the ferries across the Bosphorus and connecting Europe and Asia.
I tell you, if there are no ships in the Bosphorus and no visitors in the Grand Bazaar, this means that the world really came to a halt.
I tell you. And dolphins are back, and it's extremely quiet. There is not even plane noise, almost no plane noise in Istanbul.
So people are mainly at home?
Oh yes, the majority, at least the last weeks, the people I know have been very consequently in quarantine. There, I have. I'm a little bit looking at the questions, and I'm waiting for the next good questions. But I have some. I have two questions actually. The one is, what is the best advice you have recently received? Because I'm sure everybody is asking you for advice, but is there any advice you have recently received?
I think one of the best advice is what Sir Freddie Laker once said. You remember Freddie Laker?
No, not really. I'm afraid.
Okay, Sir Freddie Laker was the genius who invented cheap air travel in the 70s in the UK.
Ah, okay.
He was able to convince the British government to reduce the regulation, and he created the first low-cost airline. Really was a pioneer of modern day air travel. Of course, at the end, he went bankrupt, like all these huge revolutionary. There is a question, another question for another Zoom. Sina, if you want to be a revolutionary or you want to go in the paved path, but this will be subject of another talk.
I like it.
And he was asked by a young guy, Sir Fred, what is the best advice you can give me? And he said, if you are a young man and you have a conviction, don't hesitate, go and give it a try, because you have a chance when you are young to try it. When you will grow older, you will not have this chance. So go follow your belly and go and do it, but never ever sign personal guarantees. So this, I think, is a very good advice. When you do your startups, don't sign personal guarantees. But on a more serious note, the best advice, again, I cannot tell you where I got it, but I think, as I told you, when you are recruiting people, give high priority to three virtues. You know, number one, are they passionate? Especially in the software, you know, a passionate guy can produce 10 times more than a kind of average guy. You have to find passionate, talented, and people with good virtues. People which are honest, are team players, are comfortable to work with, are fun to work with. I think this is the key, the number one key to success of startups.
Yossi, you had a very famous TED Talk, I believe, 7-8 years ago, and you outed yourself.
It's 13 years, Sina.
Is it already 13 years? It is still amazing. And I watched it today for, I think, the 10th time. And I'm still laughing out loud when I'm watching this. And you warned us 13 years ago about the dangers of local warming, especially
Sina, we are not going to discuss it on this Zoom. If anybody
but I just Umut will share the link later on so the people can watch your TED Talk. But
you really want to ruin my reputation. You know, it took me 10 years to recoup my reputation after this talk.
Oh, but is the danger of local warming still going on? What do you think? This is my actual question.
I think it's in spite of the fact that the talk was with tongue-in-cheek, it's a very, very real threat. You know, I just saw that the viewers, the number of viewers is now bigger than 1 million people, you know, of this talk.
I believe, because this has all the potential with you as the prankster in a TED talk. and it's really fun. So every time I'm laughing out loud. So guys, please watch Yossi Vardi's TED Talk about local warming.
You know that laughing is very important for your immune system. You know, in these days of the corona, fostering your immune system is very important. And one of the ways, I'm not joking, is laughing. If you watch funny movie, it's improve your immune system.
So this is again an invitation to watch your TED Talk.
So this talk is both helping your immune system and protect you from the effect of local warming.
Yossi, thank you so much for your time, especially on Friday night, to be with us, with the fellows and all the others listening to us on YouTube. I really appreciate this, and I'm very grateful that you have taken the time, and I hope we can visit you soon in Israel or meet up in Istanbul. And believe me, when you are next time in Istanbul, the city will be maybe crowded again and there will be lots of traffic, but many young people will expect you, and we will arrange a get together with all of them.
No, I must tell you, I really love Istanbul. It's really amazing city with so many things to see, and your wonderful archaeological museum. I don't know if I think I told you I was a weekend last year. I stayed in this wonderful little Bebek hotel, which sits just on the Bosphorus, and I cannot wait to come again. And I hope number one that we will be able to do Kindernet before the end of the year in Istanbul, and also I hope to continue to see some of your guys and ladies in some other Kinnernets in Europe and around the world. You are always welcome guest, and not only you are welcome guest, but usually you really are able to put a lot of character and joy into the events. So thank you very much, and I hope we will be able to see each other face to face, and if not on Zoom. By the way, we are doing, as I told you, we are having a series of luminaries talks called DLD Sync. We have like 2 talks every week, and I invite you to join. Sina, did you get my invitation to the talk?
I listened to Scott Galloway, and I will also try to listen to you and Martin.
So when I send you the invitation, you feel free to forward it to all your friends.
I will do to the fellows.
And Meru, again, thank you very much for putting it together. You know, Meru is doing the work and Sina is collecting the credit.
Thank you. Join us.
Good. Very good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
And regards from Tel Aviv.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Çok teşekkürler herkese dinlediğiniz için. Yossi tabii her zaman gibi zaman su gibi akıyor. Tüm soruların hepsini soramadım. Kusura bakmayın. Buna zaman yetmeyecekti. Ama belki Yossi ile tekrarlarız veya istediğiniz başka biri olursa lütfen Mehri'ye ya da bana yazın. Yani aklınıza gelen böyle bir sohbet yapalım dediğimiz, hatta o sefer soruları da önceden biraz toplayabiliriz. Oradan sizlerden gelen yorumlara göre devam edeceğiz bu ufak serimizde. Çok teşekkürler. İyi hafta sonları. Dinlediğiniz sabrınız için çok teşekkür ederim. Nerede olursanız olun, iyi olun. Kendinize iyi bakın. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Görüşmek üzere.